Good morning. My name is Joyce Fiddler, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. I'm the council chair, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. We welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Studio City. We are a welcoming community striving to support and affirm all who walk through our doors. Here, values and deeds are the windows to the soul, not the color of your skin, whom you love, the gender pronouns you use, the particular forms of human sensory or neurodiversity you may embody, or what your cultural, ethnic, or religious background may be. We encourage each person to find their own answers to the great religious questions of life in a community of open hearts and questioning minds. Today we will be having a talk back after the service, so please join us in the chat in the breakout rooms after the service if you would like to participate in that. And we thank you for Zooming by to be with us today. Welcome all.
No audio.
Hold on a second, we're having a problem with the audio. Let me start this again.
In a madman's world, happens every day. I don't understand why the rules can't change.
Hey, it's Sage. I'm here at UC Irvine for the Vote for Our Lives, March for Our Lives rally. I'm playing my first show ever in 30 minutes, and I'm kind of terrified. But Chica's here. She's been supporting me. It's going to be so good. I'm so excited. I'm so honored to be here with March for Our Lives. This is just really a dream come true. About a month after the shooting at Parkland, I went out to California and wrote the song Safe after we listened to Emma Gonzalez's We Call BS speech. It's like, I'm trying to get like militant, but not too offensive, you know? Like I'm mad, but I'm not too mad. I'm pretty mad. Sheikah's lyrically amazing. She's fantastic. She took the song to like the next level. Because I'm just a dumb high school kid being emotional about not wanting to see kids die. She took my emotions and put it into beautiful words.
I remember when I was in school trying to make changes and I had very heavy political views, I was told that school was not the place to do that. To have this setting where it is a school and there is a captive audience, but it's welcome and you can actually make change. You're in a room full of like-minded individuals. For me to be even welcome on the song and be able to speak about it, I am just honored that you even let me hop on the song.
In a madman's world, happens every day. I don't understand why the rules can't change. I don't wanna be a moment of silence. I don't wanna be an early grave. When I'm walking through the halls, I don't wanna be brave. I just wanna be safe.
We were just looking for a good time. Now it's goodbyes for no reason. Every day cut season. Breathing was uneven. People down on knees. Everything was a blur. Can't tell you where he was, but I remember where we were. Look, lately we can't even have our pastime. Leave our home for one day, it'll be our last time. Yeah.
Everybody underestimates the youth. We aren't gonna pretend everything's okay. We are gonna change the world.
Know that I was gonna stand for something.
We are a family. Our family is every kid in America who walks through the halls and has to wonder where the closest exit is. Our family is everyone who's had enough of it.
This morning, we're presenting a wide lens view of the gun violence issue and what's going on across the country in response to this dreadful and mind-boggling phenomenon that plagues us. We see how tied together are the various problems we face today. It should be evident to all that our democracy is in peril, truly, and gun violence is very much intertwined in this reality. While not a happy topic, we present this in the firm belief that knowledge is power. Encouraged by the many ways of people, young and old, throughout the country who are working to move us into a new, safer, more reasonable place. We take this.
She needs to be closer to the microphone. Nobody can hear her.
Still, I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. Start over. Tell me when.
It's Terry and they're not connected to audio. I don't think it's us.
Not connected to what?
Audio.
Audio. That's you.
Hello, hello.
No, it's not. It's not.
We are not hearing audio from the podium.
Now?
Yeah,
Can
go
you hear
ahead.
me now?
Yep, go ahead.
This morning, we are presenting a wide lens view of the gun violence issue and what's going on across the country in response to this dreadful and mind-boggling phenomenon that plagues us. We see how tied together are the various problems we face today. It should be evident to all that our democracy is in peril, truly, and gun violence is very much intertwined in this reality. While not a happy topic, we present this in the firm belief that knowledge is power. We are encouraged by the many ways people, young and old, throughout the country are working to move us into a new, safer, more reasonable place. We take this to heart. I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. Of covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and the quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant. And now please join us in singing our doxology. so beautiful. This is the time in our service when we share our joys and our sorrows. Please go to the chat, put a J or an S in front of what you are writing, so our reader, who today is Will Rapp on Zoom, will know that yours is one of the joys or sorrows that he will be reading aloud. Please enjoy this music from the UU2 band as you write your joys or sorrows.
Hello, folks. I hope you can hear me. I think you can. I'm going to pick as the first joy. It's not listed as a joy, but I'm going to call it a joy because it comes from Tina from North Carolina. And because Tina says, beautiful choir, love. Bonnie Burrows has a joy. I'm so grateful to all the folks making a heroic effort each week to bring worship to us in spite of the huge technical challenges. I don't care at all about a flawless remote church experience, but I appreciate the work being done and everyone attending and supporting. Aviva notes that the choir is happy with our new music director. Some of us were despondent, losing Nancy and then Anthony, but this is good. Thanks to John. Terry says, joy for our friend Dave, who won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry this week. And we will be visiting our daughter in Boston this week. Antoinette has a joy. Says, happy birthday weekend to my birthday twin, Barbara. Yay, Libra season. Jolly says, thanks to everyone that showed up to garden. Place looks amazing. Nicole has a joy. Friends from the Bay Area came to visit last weekend. We did yard work outdoors and ate together outside on our patio. A lovely and safe weekend was had by all. Pam has a joy collecting men's clothing in church parking lot. So many donations here today until 1:30. Anyone want to drop off? I'm in the parking lot. Goes to Downtown Program Mentors. Greg has a sorrow. After an incredibly stressful few months, I came down with a bad cold the week before a major work deadline. A joy, I'm starting to feel better and the end is in sight. Looking forward to having my life back soon and being able to rejoin our lovely choir. Aviva has a joy going to the Geffen today for their opening, a magic show. What fun. And she sends a note to Tina. We love you, Tina. And Tina can't be with us way out there in North Carolina. John and Cynthia have a sorrow. My mom with advanced dementia broke her hip last week. Please send healing thoughts. Jen has a great weekend with my husband and stepdaughter at her college family weekend. And I don't see any more, but I didn't actually introduce the fact that we know that when a sorrow is shared, it is lessened. And when a joy is shared, it is multiplied. And I'm happy that you shared your joys and sorrows with us today. We end by honoring all the joys and sorrows kept in the silent sanctuary of our hearts. May we all be warmed in the embrace of our community. I think there's an extra joy here from John. My mom's been ill for a while, but seems to be on the mend. Thank you very much for listening.
For our reflection, I'll be reading a piece adapted from The Benediction by Gregory Jones. On this day, we remember those who are no longer with us here, but who live on in our memories and remain forever in our hearts. We embrace those whose sorrow is immeasurable, for all the children and teens and adults who have been killed and injured by people using guns. We honor those who keep on courageously doing the mundane necessary tasks, who advocate for common sense laws, teach gun awareness and safety, and proclaim an end to senseless killing, who ask our civic leaders to promote reason over money, safety over danger, kindness over harm. May all here find blessing in their lives, hope in their days, and comfort in their nights. Let us now reflect. And now please join us for the Time for All Ages. Declan and Liam Curran will read There's Only One You, a gun safety book for children.
Hi, I'm Declan. I'm Liam, and today we're reading There's Only One You, a gun safety book for children. Accidents happen, I know for a fact, said Alice to her best friend Jack. I remember a day I helped Mama clean. I knocked over a lamp and it broke. I whispered, I'm sorry, please don't be mad, and she hugged me and smiled as she spoke. She said, accidents happen, I know it's true, but nothing's more special than my love for you. One day I found Daddy's oil can and spilled oil on my shiny new shoe. I went to my daddy and cried in his arms as he helped to wipe off the goo. I whispered, I'm sorry, please don't be mad. I hugged him and he hugged me back. He looked in my eyes, which were very sad, and he said, I'm not angry, Jack. He said, accidents happen, I know it's true, but nothing's more special than my love for you. One day I was with my dad. We were building a house for Spot. I swung the hammer and bent a nail. He's going to be mad, I thought. I was just trying to help. I'm so sorry, I said. I was sadder than I had ever been. But Dad just smiled at me and kissed my head. He grabbed the nail and I tried again. He said, accidents happen, I know it's true, but nothing's more special than my love for you. That reminds me of a time I helped my mom. She was letting me help her cook.
I was trying to be careful, but I spilled the flour. I made such a mess. Just look.
I was sure that she'd be angry with me. She warned me to be careful before, but she laughed at the mess she could see, and together we cleaned the floor. She said, accidents happen, I know it is true, but nothing more special than my love for you.
One day I painted a picture for my little brother. It was his favorite thing, a choo-choo. He was so excited he tried to grab it from me, but he pulled it too hard and it ripped in two.
I stood there mad with the picture on the floor. I said, I worked so hard to make it for you, but he was sad that he didn't have it anymore. And I know that sometimes we don't mean what we do. I said, accidents happen, I know it is true, but nothing is more special than my love for you.
Jack told Alice he visited Gramps one day, and Gramps liked to hunt and had a gun. Gramps locked it away, except for that day when he left it outside in the sun.
I ran over to play with it and have some fun. Gramps yelled, please stop right there. Stay away. Tell a grown-up when you see a gun. Guns are not toys, they must be handled with care.
Gramps locked up the gun and came back to play. Then I asked him why he put it up. He sat down beside me and he began to say,
things break and they bend, things crack and they fall. Things are easy to fix and to mend. Accidents happen, I know it is true, but there will never ever be another you.
I learned a good lesson that day. When you see a gun, you must stop. Get yourself and your friends far, far away, and always tell a grown-up.
Alice understood the reason for the fuss. Small accidents can be cleaned or fixed with paste, but a gun can really hurt one of us, and we just can't be replaced. The end.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now please enjoy this performance of our new choir director, John Berquist, and soloist Cheryl Kaplow as we collect the offering to support the many programs of this church. We'll post the information for donating the chat, which in the chat at the end of the service. The information is uustudiocity.org and the donate button at the top right corner of the screen. Thank you for your generous support.
Violence is with us every day, constantly. Our level of deadly civilian violence exceeds many times over that of other wealthy nations and is due directly to the easy and ever easier access to firearms. Unhappily, this country has seen extreme violence from its earliest beginnings. Not that everyone saw it, not that everyone was impacted. But today's plight of poverty and deprivation of Native American communities takes us through the trail of tears. It's too much. Okay. And today's obstacles and disadvantages confronting African Americans takes us through 3,500 recorded lynchings. Throughout the last century, union organizing, from the mine workers to the farm workers, was met with serious and repeated violence. Recall the Freedom Riders. Mob violence and vigilantism have a healthy fan base. On January 6th, there were plenty of willing participants. Today, on the far right, there is a large and growing fanatical belief in individualism with an apocalyptic view of government. Gun-toting, anti-government groups pose a unique threat to our nation. They spread unfounded claims and conspiracy theories that downplayed the severity of the COVID pandemic, categorized Black Lives Matter supporters as terrorists, and questioned the legitimacy of our election. They participated in armed protests and called for violence, even plotting to kidnap the governor of Michigan. In its 2020 report on hate, the Southern Poverty Law Center tells us that California, yes, California, has the highest number of active anti-government groups, 51, in the country. Culturally, we live with a certain accommodation to violence. In a 1970 article, historian Richard Hofstadter used the phrase gun culture to describe America's long-held affection for guns, associating them with the country's heritage, the citizen soldier, the frontiersman, the Wild West. A real man is gun-toting and fierce. These tropes flourish in literature and film and cyber entertainment today as ever. Don't dismiss this. Just go to a toy store.
The opportunity to maneuver, to exploit fears, to push the notion that guns make us free, that you need a gun to defend yourself, and that more guns make us safer, is what maintains the NRA and, in turn, gun manufacturers. Their strategy is unrelenting. They pour money into election campaigns, lean on lawmakers to comply, defeat those who don't push laws that increase these specific things. We're feeding back, Peter. Open carry, concealed carry, permitless carry, and stand your ground laws. That's it. Have legally available as many guns as possible, loaded or unloaded, carried openly or concealed, available with few or no restrictions. The NRA and a few other groups have been quite effective. Over the past 30 years, state laws have been weakened to permit more and more people to carry guns in public places and to reduce or eliminate local law enforcement's ability to keep potentially dangerous people from carrying guns in public. As for concealed carry, historically almost every state prohibited or strictly limited carrying a hidden weapon. But at the behest of the gun lobby, in recent years, many states have weakened requirements and others have eliminated permits entirely. It is estimated that every day here in America, 3 million people are carrying a loaded handgun. Despite the rhetoric from gun advocates, all the studies show that, not surprisingly, that when people more people carry guns in public, violent crime increases. That having a gun does not reduce your chance of injury, nor is it successful in self-defense. Be advised, today, 18 states have no requirements for a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Only 7 states require an applicant to demonstrate good cause. In recent years, the gun lobby has been pushing federal legislation that would mandate each state to recognize the concealed carry permits from every other state. This would make it significantly harder to enforce gun laws. Traditionally, if a person knows it's possible to safely step away from a confrontation then taking a life is not justified. The one exception to standing back is with an intruder inside your home. To the point, stand your ground laws extend the in-home exception to essentially all public places, encouraging an increasingly armed public to escalate confrontation and resort to vigilante violence in situations where they know they have completely safe alternatives. In other words, stand your ground makes it easier to get away with murder. Each month, about 30 to 50 people across the country are killed as a result of stand your ground laws. They are associated with an increase in firearm homicides and a significant increase in emergency room visits and inpatient hospitalizations. Assault weapons are a relatively new class of weapon. During the 1980s, the gun industry sought to reverse a decline in consumer demand for guns by developing and marketing new types of weapons based on high-powered military designs. Between 1994 and 2004, certain of these weapons were banned at the federal level, but that law expired and has not been reinstated. Assault weapons have been used in the 7 deadliest mass shootings in the last decade.
Politicians and pundits often invoke mental illness as a cause for gun violence, particularly in the wake of mass shootings. Roughly half the American public believes that mental health problems are chiefly to blame. However, a recently published longitudinal study looking at the connection between mental health and firearms-related behavior found little association with gun violence, including people with anxiety, stress, depression, PTSD, and borderline personality disorder. In actuality, individuals with mental illness are more likely to be victims of crime than perpetrators. Of course, we do have a huge mental health problem in this country, with more and more people unable to cope and very limited resources available. Of more than 46,000 gun deaths a year and rising, half, somewhat more than 23,000, are suicides. Of these suicides, over 6,000 are among adolescents and young adults, making it the second leading cause of death for ages 15 to 24. And each year since 2008, veteran suicides have exceeded 6,300 individuals. More people in this country kill themselves with guns than with all other intentional means combined. Though guns are not the most common method by which people attempt suicide, they are the most lethal. About 85% of suicide attempts with a firearm end in death. Drug overdose, the most widely used method in suicide attempts, is fatal in fewer than 3% of cases. Moreover, guns are an irreversible solution to what is often a passing crisis. With a firearm, once the trigger is pulled, there's no turning back. 500,000 people are houseless, on any given night. There are many reasons, including home displacement, domestic abuse, substance misuse, and, in the case of youths, family rejection, particularly among the LGBTQ+ community. Homelessness is challenging on all levels and can cause a myriad of mental health problems, from anxiety and depression to suicide contemplation and addiction. In one study, among the homeless youth population, 69% report mental health problems. 29% reported self-injury. 21% had thought about suicide, and 9% had attempted suicide in the last year, twice as likely to engage in any of these behaviors as their peers who were not homeless. Domestic violence claims at least 2,000 lives each year. 70% of the victims are women. More than half of the time, the weapon used to carry out an intimate partner homicide is a gun. The link between guns and fatal domestic abuse is so strong, research shows that simply living in a state with a high rate of firearm ownership increases a woman's risk of being fatally shot in a domestic violence incident. Abusers intent on killing an intimate partner, especially if they use a gun, often take out other people who happen to be on the scene: children, friends, grandparents, total strangers. Domestic violence has increased during the pandemic.
From a journal article written by a trauma and acute care surgeon in June of last year, he writes, "Only late in the last century was firearm violence beginning to be recognized as a public health problem, and concurrently of the role of structural violence and structural racism in its persistent and disproportionate effect on African Americans." What does structural mean? We hear so much of it now. It means conditions built into the system itself, avoidable impairments contributing to loss of life. For example, the various and differing state permits and regulations work to assist crime and invite stockpiling of firearms. Can't buy an assault weapon in California? Buy one in Nevada. Federal law bars convicted domestic abusers from gun ownership, but without matching state laws, local authorities often have no effective way of disarming those found or alleged to have done a partner harm. Stand your ground laws are permits to shoot and kill. Someone is legally carrying a gun and says he felt threatened. He shoots. This ties the hands of law enforcement and deprives victims of remedies. Racism is a large factor in who gets killed, who is charged, and who is convicted. The release of gun tracing information is restricted by law, shielding gun sellers and manufacturers, as well as criminals. This same law also bans a requirement that gun dealers inspect their inventory, making it easy to hide firearms moved for criminal purposes. This law requires the FBI to destroy background check information within 24 hours of sale. An individual can, without attracting attention, purchase guns every day, even when there is a waiting period. While the majority of gun dealers follow the law, a small number perpetuate gun violence by selling to straw purchasers, gun traffickers, and other dangerous individuals. The hands of the ATF are tied because they are limited by statute to the number of inspections they can conduct. Moreover, they don't have the resources to make those inspections robust and thorough. The American College of Surgeons has repeatedly stated that firearm violence is a public health crisis and that structural violence is a risk factor The consensus of 45 medical and injury prevention organizations is that a national public health approach to firearm violence is needed and wanting. And quoting this study, the enormous obstacle to a public health solution is largely the unwillingness of all states to implement responsible gun legislation.
Today, if you buy a gun at a gun store, you will have a background check to determine there is no warrant for your arrest and you have no known history of violence. Ordinarily, it is completed immediately. This is the so-called loophole. Call it a giant sinkhole. Background checks take place only if you buy from a licensed gun dealer. If you buy or sell a firearm at a gun show or on the web or in private exchanges, no license is required. No background check is also required. We're talking about an estimated 20 million guns, about 40 to 45% of all legal purchases. And there's more to this. Licensed dealers are obligated to record a sale, make records available to law enforcement, report certain multiple sales, and report loss of theft or inventory. Unlicensed exchanges have no paperwork requirements. There is no oversight, so gun trafficking flourishes.
Gun advocates depend greatly on the degree of protection given them by the Constitution, not only the Second Amendment, but the First, and also states' rights as interpreted by various courts. Not until 2008 did the Supreme Court rule on whether the Second Amendment protects an individual's right to keep and bear arms in the home, unconnected with service in a militia. It was the first Supreme Court case to decide that the Second Amendment does protect an individual right to keep and bear arms for self-defense. The ruling overturned a D.C. law banning handguns and regulating shotguns. The Roberts Court will take up a high-stakes Second Amendment case, probably in October, that experts say has the potential to expand gun rights and radically increase the number of firearms on the streets of major cities already besieged. The nation's highest court said that it will hear an appeal on whether New York's permit requirements for carrying guns in public is constitutional, and ultimately whether the Second Amendment protects Americans' right to carry guns outside of their homes. It is the first major gun rights case the court will hear since Justice Amy Coney Barrett joined last October, swinging the political makeup of the bench to a 6-3 conservative majority. Earlier this year, Dun & Bradstreet published a profile of the gun and ammunition manufacturing industry. They report the international trade of small arms, parts, accessories, and ammunition, import and export, amounts to around $6 billion. That's billion with a B. The U.S. is by far the largest player, but Italy, Belgium, Austria, and Germany take part. Within the United States, manufacturers make a combined annual revenue of about $10 billion. Gun money is involved in our elections. Gun rights groups overwhelmingly support Republican candidates, contributing $5.9 million to GOP campaigns in the 2016 election cycle and more than $16 million during the 2020 campaign, with $4.2 million going directly to Trump and $12.2 million to defeat Biden.